Welcome to forever, man. Let's go. Come on. This forever. No surrender. Yeah. You know that this right here forever. Go. And there will be no surrender. Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me.
You're now tuned in to the Dads Who Live podcast. I'm Joel Staley with my co-host Tyler Gata.
On this episode of the Dads Who Live podcast, we have on Larry Hagner, host of the Dad Edge podcast, father of 4 boys, founder of the Good Dad Project, and founder of the Good Dad Edge Alliance.
Larry, well, thanks for joining us, brother. We were just kind of talking about last time I talked to you was right after I was on your podcast, the legendary Dad Edge podcast, formerly the Good Dad Project. You had done 75 hard, which funny enough we were just talking about.
Just started 75 hard.
Tyler's doing it right now,
Yeah.
but not 75. So. Maybe it is. We haven't done the math.
I'm going to July 1st. Maybe I'll keep going if it's close. I don't know.
But after that challenge, you looked like a new man. You were feeling good. And then you decided you wanted to go plant-based. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so plant-based diet is something I've always just kind of been intrigued with. And I mean, I saw the documentary Forks Over Knives I don't know, whenever it came out, like years ago. And then I tried like plant-based on my own, and I was like, this sucks. Beans and lentils and a little bit of rice, and like my stomach was a mess. I felt terrible. I was like, I'm not doing this. I think I lasted maybe 5 days and did away with it.
Were you a big carnivore?
Yeah. Dude, I love meat.
Yeah.
Like I'll have meat for dessert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
steak all the time.
Yeah. So, but I did the 75 hard. And I looked really healthy. My body fat dropped to about, I don't know, just like right around 13-ish or so. Went from like 17, 18% down to 13 and felt really good. I got some blood work back. I have genetically high cholesterol anyway, and so I have to get blood work done at least twice a year. And I was due for it, and my blood work came back. Here's a weird thing. So blood work came back with 3 red flags. Cholesterol was higher than what it was before, even though I was eating cleaner. So it was right around 255.
This is after the 75 hard?
Yeah.
But pre-plant-based?
Pre-plant-based.
Okay.
Yeah, so was eating meat all through the 75 hard. It was like 255. Most of my HDLs were great. Good cholesterol was great. Bad cholesterol was really high, like 160. So pretty high. They always want it below 100. The other thing, too, is I had a high level of creatinine in my blood, which they were concerned about my kidneys. So they're like, hey, like this is not good. Like kidneys are not filtering properly. You need to go see an endocrinologist. Then on top of it, my estradiol was high. So it was the normal range, I think, is below 40, and mine was like 56. So precursor to estrogen, I was like, whoa, what? But my testosterone was high, which was great. So I was like,
what was your test at?
It was like just shy of 900.
Okay.
Nice.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Man, that's got to be kind of crappy. You just do the 75 hard, which everyone knows is like a big kick in the ass for 75 days. And then you go get all these markers checked and everything's kind of out of whack.
Yeah. I mean, there were good things though too, right? I mean, my HDLs were high, which was good. My blood sugar was fine. Everything was great except for that estradiol. High cholesterol I expected because I always have it. And the other thing too was,
what's up, buddy?
The creatinine clearance was really alarming. I was like, oh crap! Like if my kidneys aren't working right, that's a serious issue. That's awesome.
Hey man, I like that.
This is COVID for you. That's a great picture.
Oh man,
that's a good picture.
My 6-year-old drew a picture of a butterfly, so really good. So I was concerned about that, and then just so happened, like literally in that time frame, I saw the documentary, The Game Changers, and I'm not even going to go into like debunking that. I don't have enough information to even know about that, but I was like,
worth a shot.
Worth a shot.
I've never seen that.
the thing was about the 75 hard is I was in like total experimental mode. I was like, I'm just going to try a couple things. Like Joel, you know this because I learned it from you. I was like, every Sunday night, I'm going to fast until Tuesday morning, 36-hour fast once a week during the 75 hard. And so I was experimenting with that, 75 hard. So I thought, hey, why not?
How'd you do your diet with 75 hard with fasting? Like, did you have I guess so. I just started 75 hard. I've tried it before and only lasted like 3 weeks. So I just started again on Monday this week. But I feel like I've thought about throwing a fast in when I'm doing it, but I have a set, macros and calories per day that is like supposedly my diet. So if I do a fast, did you make those up or just count those days out?
That's those days part of the diet.
Well, but see, I feel like I'm cutting, right? So if I'm on a cut diet and I'm doing that every single day, I'm hungry already. So if I throw in a fast and I don't have a refeed the next day, you know what I mean? Because I'm going right back to my diet. I don't know if I'd be able to do it. Does that make sense?
You can do it. You'd be surprised. The thing that I would do too, because the 75 hard is so mental. Like that's the one thing I loved about it. Like the physical transformation was like a bonus, but you don't even realize that until you're towards the end. The real benefits are the mental game, like the mental toughness and proving to yourself day in, day out and live by those 5 rules. And I would do things on purpose. Like while I was fasting on Monday night, and I knew I couldn't eat until the next morning, I would do things just to mess with my head, like make my favorite dinner for my family and then sit there and watch them eat it just to see if I could do it. And then when you wake up on Tuesday morning, you're like, yeah, how about that?
Is that a great feeling or what?
Yeah, it is. Cause you're proving to yourself over and over. And the thing is too, is like, with 75 hard, I think you can give yourself that 75 days to experiment. Like, yeah, I'm cutting and I need to stay within my macros, but you know what? For the next month, for the next 30 days, I'm not going to do a refeed. This is just going to be part of the regimen. And let me just see how my body responds. If it doesn't respond the way I want it to, I can always change things up. But I was kind of in the midst of just saying, hey, let's just see what happens. And what I saw, I liked.
And then, so how did you finished 75 hard and then you got your markers back. Where did the plant-based come into all this?
So I saw a documentary called The Game Changers and I was like, it's kind of interesting. I was like, it gave me information that I never saw before. The thing that really intrigued me the most was athletic performance. So I was just like, well, you certainly can't be vegan and work out or be athletic because that's for people that just don't do anything and just eat plants.
That's my favorite.
But that documentary really hit it home. I mean, that UFC fighters, professional football, Olympic athletes, I mean, like all athletes. And I was like, So I got connected with this guy named Fraser Bailey, who is a vegan athlete, bodybuilder. The guy looks like he's never eaten a plant. He looks like he eats steak every day. And I was connected to him by one of our guys in our mastermind. And I just had a conversation with him. And then I ended up hiring him as a vegan, plant-based athletic bodybuilding coach for 30 days. I'm like, hey, I want to try this for 30 days. Just give me the plan how to do it. He gave me everything I needed. And the first 2 weeks, I felt awful. I was like, this is terrible. Like, I don't even like this. Like, after 30 days, I'm done. Then 3 weeks, I'm like, I feel kind of good. Like, I feel good now. 4 weeks into it, I was like, I feel so good. Digestion was on point. Recovery was on point. Workouts hadn't changed. Endurance was higher. I was like, I think I'll do this for another 30 days. So I did it for 60. Then I did it for I did 90. And that's when I got my blood work back. Here's the really intriguing thing after being on that plant-based diet for 90 days. Here's what I expected. My testosterone's going to plummet. My estrogen's going to be even higher. And God only knows what the other two things are going to come back. Here was the crazy thing. Cholesterol had dropped 60 points. So it was down to 200 total cholesterol, was right around 105. I was also on cholesterol meds before this. I went in to see my doctor and he was like, hey, he goes, your testosterone is great. It's 925. Your estradiol has dropped to 32, which is well within normal. You dropped it by 20 points. Well, what have you been doing? And I told him, he started laughing. He was like, well, just keep doing what you're doing because your blood work is, and no creatinine in my blood. Kidneys are fine. He goes, well, here's the thing. Stay on this diet. I'm taking you off Crestor. You don't need to see an endocrinologist because everything's working optimally. So I guess just keep doing what you're doing. So I did.
So when you do plant-based, I've never done plant-based, obviously, but when you do plant-based, is that the same macros? Like, do you still get the same amount of, like, so say I'm eating 200 grams of protein a day, you know, on a normal carnivore diet. Do you still eat that same 200 grams of protein when you're on plant-based?
Well, so here's the funny thing. The plant-based vegan coach that works with me, I was so dialed into macros. I was like, dude, I got to hit these macros. I have to hit 180 grams of protein a day. I have to do it.
Larry used to be a competitor. A lot of people don't know that, I don't think, but he's done a bodybuilding competition. He's very familiar with all this stuff.
Yeah, so I competed 12 times in 12 years, and always got really lean and all that good stuff. But anyway, like, I told him, I was like, I need to stay within my macros. And he always told me, he was like, you kind of do and you don't. He's like, you really don't have to stay like so much within those macros. If you hit 120 to 150 grams of protein a day, you're good. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me.
It's almost too easy, right?
It's almost too easy. And then he's like, you know, make sure you're getting your carbohydrates from fruits, vegetables. Like anytime I put in my Fitness Pal that I was eating something processed, he's like, hey man, like replace this with an apple, replace this with berries. Like don't eat crackers, you know, like, so he was really big on that. He was big into optimal health. So, I would hit between 120 and 150 protein, 250, 275 carbs, all good high quality carbs. And then all my fats came from avocado, olive oil, that kind of thing. And I'd hit probably 70 grams of fat a day. And I just noticed my body just responding, getting leaner and leaner and leaner. And now my body fat is just shy of 10 and no strength loss. I can go and go workout wise. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like the things that I used to try to hit, like 190, 225 grams of protein a day, you know, and all the other macros, it's kind of gone out the window a little bit. My body just keeps responding in a really positive way.
Do you feel like you can gain muscle?
I feel so. My strength hasn't gone up, but it hasn't gone down. But my goals are not to bench 315.
Right. For a cut, that's a win if your strength's not going down for sure.
I can still hit the same amount of reps with the same amount of weight that I was.
But do you think
before.
you could do plant-based if you were trying to like gain muscle? Like say gain lean mass?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. You know, it's for people who are like really like, hey, I want to pack on muscle. Like I don't know enough about it.
Right.
For me, I just like being lean and I like feeling good. Like those are my two goals, and that's what I'm achieving now. So I'm just sticking with it.
How much like planning and prepping does it take for a plant-based diet? Because I would just assume that it's a lot of. You can't really just call an audible at the end of the night and be like, all right, what vegetables do we have in the fridge? You probably have to map out at least a couple meals ahead of time, or no?
It's no different than what I was doing before. The only thing that's different is instead of, you know, chicken, fish, or steak, I would just eat my protein from the plant-based proteins.
Okay. And last question. I know this isn't just a plant-based, where'd he go?
I don't know. I see Netflix in the back.
Oh, there we go. Well, so we still got you on audio. Chad's messing with this thing, but this isn't a completely plant-based diet, but I am curious about it. It's pretty fascinating. Like you said, you were surprised by all these things. I'm surprised to hear it. What is like your favorite meal right now? What's that look like? Or what's a typical meal look like?
Yeah. So my favorite meal is what I like to call a macro bowl. And a macro bowl. So I have so many veggies in this meal. It's my lunch usually. So what I'll do is I'll throw in like some spinach, some shredded cabbage. I try to go. So my goal used to be macros. Now my goal is colors. So I do spinach. I do some cabbage. I might sprinkle in a little bit of romaine lettuce. I'll cut up a red, yellow, and green pepper. I know it sounds like a lot of work. It's not. It takes me 10 minutes to throw this meal together. Cut that up, put that in there. I will also throw in just a sprinkle of shredded carrots. Then what I do is I either do tofu tempeh, or I do what's called Pea Protein Crumbles. I can't remember what company I buy it from, but it's literally like ground meat, and I just season it, with some rub, and just make it up. And it's literally it's like meat crumbles, but it's not. They're packed with protein. So I do one of those three as my protein source. I throw in 2 big heaping tablespoons of hummus to just kind of give it some dressing type thing. I'll throw in a half of an avocado, and then I'll sprinkle like some slivered almonds on top, mix it all together. And then for carbs, I'll either do roasted butternut squash, roasted sweet potatoes, or I'll throw in a cup of rice. So that meal alone right there is like 750 calories. And it's packed with about 50 grams of protein, probably about 65 grams of carbs, loaded with fiber and healthy fats. And I'll eat that up, man. I love it.
All right. So my last plant-based question. Because I've always thought about doing plant-based, but I do not like vegetables at all. So this would be, I would have to force myself to get into this, but I do think that I don't know. I like all the health benefits I hear from people, but I'm big into vibrations and manifesting and things like that. I'm not sure if you are or not. But one of the biggest arguments that I hear from people that go plant-based or like a pro to going plant-based is that you're eating you're eating foods with more energy because they're not dead. Yeah. So basically you're eating higher vibration foods that's supposed to keep you at a higher vibration and basically give you more energy because you're eating greens that are still alive versus, I'm eating a chicken that's been dead for who the fuck knows how long. And, it's been sitting in my freezer and now I cooked it up and it's got really low vibration, really low energy. So I don't know if that's really a question, but do you feel like with the plant-based that you have a lot more energy just because you are eating greens constantly and not eating all the meat?
I feel amazing. And again, if you ever want to meet somebody who is totally skeptical, and I was like, I'll try this for 30 days and I'll watch it fail. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to feel terrible. I'm going to turn into a woman because of all the estrogen,
yep.
Which by the way is not true. My blood work proved that. I was literally the most skeptical dude on the planet. I was like, after 30 days, I can't wait to eat bacon again. And I would have never guessed I'd be, sitting here 5 months later. But yeah, to answer your question, I did feel better. I felt my skin actually like I noticed in pictures. I was like, wow, my skin looks different. I look brighter.
Yeah.
I feel like I look younger.
I've heard that.
Even my wife would be like, wow, you look different in these photos. You look younger. Your skin looks healthier. So that's one thing I noticed.
Well, I want to commend you. Like you said, you were a skeptic, and a lot of our viewers, it's dads who lift. Sure. You got to get enough protein. I mean, you get it yourself when you're doing these 12 bodybuilding shows. You probably would have said the same thing. But I just want to commend you for getting out of, a camp,
out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, and trying it. And they say all the best things happen out of your comfort zone. Sounds like that's exactly what happened to you with this diet.
It did. I was on a couple other podcasts and I was talking about plant-based and I was like, man, I never thought I almost wanted to keep it hidden.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to know this
now.
Hey, so speaking of the podcast, there was a couple questions I wanted to ask you because you've obviously built a successful business, a following, great podcast. You have awesome guests on there. You ask great questions. As far as we go, would you recommend getting an assistant, or how do you line up all these awesome guests? Because what we've been doing is we say we're just going to DM 5 guests a day that we'd like to have on our show and maybe follow up with them. But neither one of us are really doing it. We have families, we have businesses. It does get bogged down. Do you have an assistant, or how do you recommend getting these top-notch guests on your show?
Do you guys listen to Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got Jamie, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a Jamie, and her name is Jamie. She's been working for me for 2 years. And the busier that I get, within our community, especially our mastermind, that's where if you see where I spend the majority of my time, that's probably where I spend 85% of my time is in the mastermind, is giving those guys value and, high quality things that they can that we can incorporate into our lives. It was very tough, but I recently gave Jamie, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, full reign of the podcast, director of operations. So basically all I have to do is show up and record. She does everything else. I make her a wish list. She goes out and she gets them.
Nice.
So she's landed me Jocko. She's landed me Chris Voss. I'm interviewing Tim Kennedy this Friday. I just interviewed Mark Roberge, who's the lead singer of OAR. So like these things just pop up. Dr. Meg Meeker, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. So like I'll see things pop up on my calendar. I'm like, what? I was like, what are you doing? She's like, just let me go do my thing. You just be quiet.
Wow.
Thing, and I'll go get you your guests. So she does it, man.
How
great.
was it? So Jocko Willing, I'm a huge fan of Jocko Willing. I love everything he does. How was it having him on the podcast? Like how surreal was it?
It was good.
Yeah, it had to have been.
Good. So Jocko, it was great, man. I really enjoyed that podcast. He's just he's obviously intimidating. Like, I mean, like I've done over 500 episodes, and like before he jumped on the screen, my hands were sweating, and, the cool thing about that interview was, as I shared with him before we started recording, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm obviously a huge fan and I respect everything that you do. And what I'd like to do is take this show in a direction that you never get to go in. So obviously everyone knows about your books and everything else, but I'd really love to talk about your family, you being a father, you being a husband, and just how you've incorporated life lessons from being a leader in the SEALs into your family. And he was like, that would be awesome. He's like, because I talk about the same thing all the time. He's like, that'd be awesome. I was like, well, is there anything I should stay away from? And just to respect his confidentiality, he had 2 points. He's like, yeah, don't ask me about this and don't ask me about this. It's hard for me to talk about. So I didn't. But he was very open about, life lessons with marriage and fatherhood and what he's learned. And it was great. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, you've definitely talked to some cool people, man, including myself on your podcast.
Yes.
That was the highest rated podcast, right? That was the highest one, the one with Joel.
It's number 1.
Yep.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about you have a house full of boys and a wife, and I assume they're all out of school. So you are servicing this mastermind. You have the podcast going on. If you're like me, you've been working from home, but now the whole family's home with you. How are you guys juggling that or handling that situation?
Well, you saw my 6-year-old come in who drew a picture of a butterfly, right? So it's a lot of interruptions, but I think it actually adds a lot of flavor to the podcast, a lot of reality to it, because you'll hear my kids in the background now. Today, I released a show interviewing my 14-year-old on his view, challenges and things that he appreciates about the quarantine. It hasn't really changed my life too much, only that the kids are in the background at all times versus being at school. My wife, on the other hand, she is the one who's been really challenged. She's gone from being a mom to being principal, teacher, and dean of discipline and having to learn how these kids are learning. So for her, it's been the biggest change And so my biggest challenge is having to manage her emotions with this, because it's been really tough on her. So we're in constant communication every day, all day. Hey, what do you need? How can I help? How can I support? And what I've noticed is ensuring she's a very healthy, fit person herself, and ensuring like, you need to get out of here and go for a run, go get your workout in, go do your thing, take care of you. Because if you're not taking care of you, what happens is that catches up with her as it does with all of us.
Did you have a question? It looked like you were about to ask something.
No, I was just listening.
So I was going to ask, having the Jocko Willings on and the Garrett J. Whites, I'm a big fan of Garrett J. White, and I learned about him on your show. But having all these guys on and talking about being family men and raising kids, what are some of the lessons that you've been in this unique opportunity to learn from all these other guys? What are some lessons you've taken away as far as fatherhood goes over the last few years of doing this? Yeah, that you can spread to our following.
Yeah. One of the biggest lessons are men are wired to provide, right? We get a lot. So the basic needs of a man are respect, appreciation, and validation. Any man, that is like literally the core. Like it or not, validation, appreciation, and respect. That's what men need. So if you look at those 3 basic needs that are so important to men, we get those in the workplace. And so we dive into the workplace. We spend a lot of our time and energy in the workplace, come home usually drained. It's great to make money. Don't get me wrong. I like to make money too. But one of the most powerful quotes I've ever heard was from a guest. He said, as Aaron Walker, don't come home to a wallet full of money and a house full of strangers. Because then, some people are so lonely, all they have is their money. So don't spend your life doing that. The other thing too is just do life with your kids. So like, for instance, right now I'm working out in my garage, and my 12-year-old and sometimes my 14-year-old are with me working out. So we work out together as a family. We're really big on asking ourselves really good questions. I think just human beings in general are really, we ask ourselves poor questions, especially now. Why can't we get out? Why can't we see family? Why can't fill in the blank? Why can't we? We use questions of how might we? So like right now, as we're challenged with all this going on, how might we connect in a way that we never have? How might we use this opportunity to experience things that we never have? And really good answers come up. So like on Easter, played a family flag football game outside for an hour and a half. We've done other things, like we have put together like wooden cars and trucks. We've done other things like Nerf gun wars. We've done WWE theme nights where we put on wrestling masks and belts and the whole 9 yards. Fun. We play more board games. We ask good questions over dinner, just things like that. And using those how might we questions are really, really powerful. The last and final thing that I've learned is teach your kids lessons so there's actually two more. Teach your kids lessons that you were never taught, so they might manage their life better when they're older. I'm really big on teaching my kids about finances. I open up my entire financial profile portfolio to my kids, our home budget, what it costs to pay our electric bill, what it costs to pay our mortgage, what it costs in groceries, everything. And I show them, here's my income, here's our expenses, here's how we do it, here's what we save, here's why we save it. And then I've even recently taken them to my financial advisor, where they have now opened up their own accounts and they are investing in the market right now. And my financial advisor sat down with them for an hour and taught them all about compound interest and saving now and saving aggressively. So that's one. The final thing that I'll share with you is the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. I've had the honor and privilege, I say this humbly, to interact with thousands of men, standing nose to nose, toes to toes, virtually or in person, sharing life together through our mastermind or through getting to know them or through coaching. 99% of men that I talk to don't have a powerful circle of friends in their life, a powerful board of directors who will objectively give them advice when they need it. And men need that. We're really good at acquaintances, and we're really terrible at allowing other men in. When that happens, we don't get, objective advice. We don't get direction. We don't get strategy, and we live this life, what we call, it's the lone wolf syndrome. And if most men really understood what the lone wolf is, there's not a happy ending for the lone wolf. The lone wolf has left a pack because he's going to go die, or he's lost his pack and he's going to go die. Either way, same result for the lone wolf. He's going to go die. The pack is only strong because of the wolf, and the wolf is strong because of that pack. Men are no different, so you need a pack. The last and final quote that I'll leave you guys with is this, and I'll never forget this. It was a quote from one of our podcast guests, Dominic Cortuccio. The definition of hell is meeting the man that you could have been when you're on your deathbed.
Wow,
that's powerful.
Saying that quote,
for sure.
Yeah, it gives you the chills, and it's reality. So, are you going to squander your life away and not live the epic life that you want because you're in what we call the drift, or the wash, rinse, repeat, which every single day looks exactly like it did the day before? Or are you going to go out, live purposely, intentionally, and you're going to do it with everything you got?
I think this.
So,
man, go finish up.
No, my wife challenged me with something here recently along with that quote, and I asked her, I was like, what if this was the end? This whole thing, like, what if this was the end? And she looked at me and
COVID turns
she's
into
like,
zombies.
Yeah. Like, what if this is the beginning of the end?
Right.
And she looked at me. She goes, well, what if it is? I was like, oh yeah, what if it is? She goes, well, if this was the end of your life, would you be satisfied? Are you good? And I'm like, yeah, actually I am. Like, if it was done tomorrow, I would be at peace. She's like, well, then who cares? And I was like, that's really powerful. So yeah, that's it.
That's a deep ass question, man. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sitting here thinking about it just as you said it, and I don't know if I would be all right.
Well, my thing, and the first thing that comes to mind, besides obviously my family's just getting going, I would hate to not see the direction that went, you know, walk my little girl down the aisle. But something I've always wanted to do, and I know a lot of people share this interest, is, you know, travel, see the world. Me and Gata, Tyler here, have recently started doing basically quarterly trips, whether it's to a mastermind or a conference, or Facebook flew us out to New York. But outside of, you know, the Navy and going to Mexico a few times, I haven't really seen the world. And so that would be, aside from, that'd be my selfish reason of like, man, I wish I just got out of my box a little bit more, a little bit sooner, and saw all that the world has to offer. And I just have not. So
There's a lot of shit that I want to do, but what it would come down for me is like, did I spend enough time with my son? You know, that's what I would be thinking. If the day's going to be over tomorrow, did I spend enough time with my son? You know, I think this whole coronavirus epidemic, this whole coronavirus deal, if I know there's a lot of negative that's come out of it, but I think there can be a lot of positive that you can get out of anything. And if nothing else, this should show you what's important to you in your life. And you should be focusing on that. You know, there's, I actually was listening to a podcast yesterday that was talking about it, and they said, I'm probably going to mess it up now, but they said, if you can't get done what you want to get done now in this epidemic and this coronavirus deal, then you didn't lack the time, you lacked the vision. You know, and that can be with anything. That can be with your family, your kids, your business that you wanted to start and you never did. And it is true, man. Like right now, things have slowed down. And I've said it. We've had multiple podcasts on this coronavirus deal, and I've said it multiple times. But like the world was so fast paced, and I run multiple companies, and my companies are still going. Thank God, we're not shut down. So my life hasn't changed a ton either, just like yours. But still, there's still things that, like, you know, this is the only time in world's history that the majority of the world's been shut down. So no matter what, things are slower now than they were, even if you're still working and you're still going. So we went from this, you know, overly fast-paced world and society that was way too fast-paced, in my opinion, and you know, people expected way too much out of people as unrealistic to be able to perform as much as we did and yet have a balance and a happy family life and take care of your children and all this stuff. So for me, being a dad, this is an opportunity for me to figure out what I want to do and where I want to be. Not really what I want to do, but just where's my heart saying, man? Like you said, when you're on your deathbed, you know, did you sit there and say, man, I wish I would have bought another rental property, or I wish I would have made another $1 million, or do you say, damn, I wish I would have, you know, when my son asked me if I had time to go play basketball, instead of getting that bid done and working that extra hour, I wish I would have went out and played basketball with him.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So Larry, that actually leads into something I wanted to ask you regardless. Back before this whole pandemic thing happened, you did something that really, and not to take anything away from you, any guy could do. If I recall, you were a medical sales rep, right? Mm-hmm. And then you started the podcast. It was kind of a passion project on the side. And now fast forward all these years later, you're talking to these guys that are a lot of people's heroes. Like you said, you're learning these lessons, you're getting these unique opportunities. And it's not like you had to be the world's strongest or fastest guy. You didn't have to go to college for 20 years. All you really had to do was start, be consistent with it, and then, you know, stay the course. So what would you say to people who are like, they do have, especially all this free time now, who might want to, you know, go down a similar road or just find something that they're passionate about too?
My advice, because, you know, I started Good Dad Project / Dad Edge in 2012, and it was the lowest point of me being a father. Like I was this whole passion project came out of struggle. It definitely didn't come out of like, I want to be the expert. And I still,
that's usually where success comes from though.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, this really, I always say, like, hey, I'm the founder, and I'm also the first client in line for the help, because I still need it, And but what the advice that I would share is, fear of the unknown is extremely uncomfortable. But once you step into fear of the unknown and you do it over and over again, it almost becomes, I wouldn't say an addiction, but it's something that you hunger for, because you know that, like, hey, I know when I step into this, it's going to be exciting and it's going to be lessons learned. And I used to look at failure as like, well, if I fail at it, then I fail at it, and that's the end. That's the end of the world. I don't look at failure like that anymore. Now the way I look at it is like, yeah, let's go try that. See if it works.
Failure is a good thing.
It is. At the very least, I'm going to learn some lessons out of it. I'm going to learn some things that worked, and I'm going to learn some things that didn't. And I'll take that with me on the next thing that I try. So I'm always willing now to try something new. So for your listeners at home who have extra time and want to create a podcast, they want to write a book, or they want to do something, like, just do it. It doesn't, what is it? Good is the enemy of or perfect is the enemy of good. I can't remember what it is, but it's like people think that it has to be flawless for them to execute something. Man, just do it. Just do something, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
I want to say too that, and I know this is true for me, and I'm sure it is for you too, but when you started, you had to find your truth, and I'm pretty sure you've stuck true to who you are and spoke your truth for this whole thing, which is probably another big reason as to why it blew up and it's so successful, because you're genuine.
I kind of have found out who I am and who I'm not.
Yep.
Through this whole thing. So, I have found that the more I share how flawed I am, the more relatable I am to people.
Yep.
And the less polished it is. The other thing too is I'm not the social media guy who yells at you. Like, I'm not Garrett J. White, and I don't want to be. I love Garrett. He's a great guy. I actually get the honor to talk to him now and again, but that's not me. I love Ryan Mickler, but I'm not Ryan Mickler. I love Sean Whalen, but I'm not Sean Whalen. Andy Frisella, I'm a huge fan. I started buying supplements from him when he opened his first store here in St. Louis in 2002.
Wow.
But I'm not Andy. Here's the other funny thing. So if you ever want to really get to know yourself, there's a few different things you can do. Number one, put yourself through a crucible event. You'll meet yourself. But the other thing too is take headshots. I know it sounds really odd, but one of my good friends, you guys might know him, Josiah Novak, who runs True Transformation podcast. He's another guy in the fitness industry, and he's really good at like the Instagram, like smolder, and it fits him. Like, it's perfect for him. And I was with him doing a live podcast in Washington, DC. And his photographer was with us. He's like, hey, man, you want some headshots while we're here? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So he's like, all right, do this. And I did one where I was like leaning up against the wall, and I was kind of like doing that smolder where I was looking off. Yeah. It was all serious. And I posted it, and people were dying over it. They're like, this is hilarious. Like this. And even me doing it, like, I couldn't help but like not laugh. I was like, this doesn't feel like me. And the me who I am is like goofy, laid back. I smile. I can't give you a serious photo, because like, that's just not who I am. So like, this whole thing has helped me get to know myself, because like, when I posted that picture of me like looking off in the distance, like I was having deep thoughts, people were like, dude, this is absolutely hysterical and the complete opposite of who you are. And it made me realize like, wow, this is not my wheelhouse, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm lighthearted, funny, laid back, and that's my style. And real, raw. It's going to be ugly at times, and I'm not going to yell at you on social media. That's who I am.
And one of the first things that you have guys do when they join the Dad Edge Alliance, which, going back to what you said, is, you're the sum of your 5 closest people in your circle. If you are stuck at home, especially, and you need to be around a good group of guys that are focused on self-improvement, 100% check out Larry's group, Dad Edge Alliance. But one thing that you do when you first sign up is have guys go over their core values.
Yes.
And just that alone really speaks volumes to starting to find out what your truth is, like you said it, and what you're really all about.
I feel the same way with the podcast, man. Like, everybody thinks they know who they are. But once you actually start, like, and I don't think necessarily you have to have a podcast to figure out who you are, but once you start asking yourself questions that you normally don't ask yourself, and then you have to answer them, and then, you know, if you are doing a podcast, you have to put that out to, you know, millions of people and actually hold to that truth. It's a really good way to figure out who you are, you know?
Yeah. Do you mind if I just share some insights on the core values?
Please.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So core values, like, I didn't really understand it. We've been using it now in the mastermind for 4 years. The exercise was written and developed by a good friend of mine named Paul Gilbride, who's a life coach. And if you ever want to do an exercise, it'll probably take you 20 minutes, but probably one of the most powerful exercises you will ever put yourself through. It's defining what it is your core values are. So the exercise is, it gives you a list of 150 core values. You know, it's like humor, connection, family, service, like all these things that are core values. What they do is you have a row of 3 with 50 in each. And what you do is you go line by line and you eliminate 2 out of the 3 that basically mean nothing to you. It sounds overwhelming. It's not. You do it quick. And the thing about the core values is that everyone operates within 5 to 7 core values, things that bring them the most value, the most joy, the things so like, for instance, for you guys, guaranteed without a shadow of a doubt, I would bet millions of dollars on it if I had it, that vitality and or health are part of your 7. Without a doubt. It's something that is a part of your life. You couldn't imagine your life without it. You feel really good when you're doing it, and it encompasses who you are. So the core value exercise, it gives you the 5 to 7 core values. And then we have men write what's called a being statement, which is about 4 sentences long of like, hey, now that you know your core values, how is it that you are going to operate in your life? The cool thing about the core values exercise is they're subconscious. We usually don't know what they are. We usually refer to them as like, this feels really good or this feels really wrong. And it's just my gut. I don't know what it is. It's just like, we've dated women in the past. You're like, I don't know what it is about this chick, but I don't know if I like her. On paper, she's awesome. She's beautiful. She's this, but just
not feeling it.
Doesn't feel right. And then we meet, you know, women we're probably married to now. And we're like, I don't know what it is about this girl, but she seems really cool. I really like her. Or you're working in a job where
it's whiskey. The answer is whiskey, Larry.
Right.
For Joel, it's always fast and a whiskey.
That's right. But no, same thing with the culture that we work in or the job that we do. We're like, man, I don't know what it is about this, but this is draining my life. I hate it. I don't know what it is. I just hate it. And then there are other corporations we work for or the businesses we run, and we're like, oh, I could do this work for free. So I share that with you because we know what our core values are on a subconscious level, but when you bring those to the conscious level, you're like, oh, wow, all this stuff makes sense to me now. And the powerful thing about doing a core values exercise is anytime you're faced with a decision, you can gut check that against your being statement and core values. So like, for instance, if you're faced with a decision, Joel, or either one of you guys of like, hey, I'm going to go eat 5 Whoppers today because it sounds good. And then there's that part of you that's like, is this in line with my health and vitality and what I really value? Well, no, it's really not. So I'm not going to do that. So that's the power of knowing your core values.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff.
I like that, man.
Larry, how can people support you?
You know, we've got if you like listening to podcasts, we've got podcast is now 5 years old as of today. So,
congratulations.
Yeah,
Happy
launch on
anniversary.
tax day, right? 5 years old today. We've got over 550 episodes. We've got an arsenal there. We also have a free Dad Edge group on Facebook. It's called the Dad Edge, Real Dads with Purpose. We have thousands of men over there that just interactive, have questions and conversations, what it means to be a better father, husband. We've got the mastermind. You can find out all about that if you go to gooddadproject.com/alliance. That's what we call it, the Dad Edge Alliance Mastermind. We have an arsenal of free resources of how to connect better with your wife, your kids, the whole 9 yards on the website at gooddadproject.com.
Awesome, man. Well,
Awesome.
Thanks again for coming on here. This was very enlightening on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, Larry, I really appreciate you coming on the show. We're all like-minded, growth-minded people trying to be the best versions of ourselves and fathers. So I think our group relates to your group a lot. So it's definitely check it out.
He's in it. He's been in for a while.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. I love it, man. You guys are doing good work, and I encourage you to keep it up. And if I could share one more thing, it's to your listeners. I've gotten to know Joel in particular, and I should not because I don't know you very well, but I've gotten to know Joel. But what I can tell you is that these men, man, they put a lot of effort into this, and they truly care about the physical, mental, and emotional health of dads out there and men out there, because they know firsthand what we're faced with. So if you guys are a listener of their podcast, you follow them, or you're a part of their community, you are in really good hands, because these guys are gold. They're genuine. They do this out of their heart and soul. So stick with it. Make sure you leave these guys an iTunes review too if you're enjoying the show. That really helps them out.
Appreciate that, brother.
Hey, man, coming from you though, that means a lot. So thank you very much for that. Guys, if you like this podcast, found any value, found anything interesting, please give us a like, share. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify.
Nice.
Did I get them all?
I think so.
All right. So we have a Facebook group. It's Dads Who Lift Podcast. And then we have the Facebook page for the podcast is Dads Who Lift Podcast. And we have a Facebook group, which is just Dads Who Lift. Then we also have the IG, which is Dads Who Lift Official. So we do this stuff for free, guys. Please give us a like and share. We appreciate all your support.
Boom.
Awesome.
Booyah.
Thanks, brother.
On next week's episode of the Dads Who Lift podcast, me and Tyler talk about some fitness goals we have and even challenge ourselves to a physique transformation challenge. You guys aren't going to want to miss that one.